Hey, what is up, everybody? Hope you guys are having a great Friday night. We have a wonderful live stream for you guys tonight. I'm really excited. These are the kind of live streams I love to do. It's where I get to introduce you guys to a brand you might not have heard of, that I really love. So last week we had Brian from Hard Truth in Indiana, and we got some amazing feedback from that. Everybody loved that. Everybody went out and bought. I saw a lot. I even saw people at the distillery the next day, which was really cool. So they're doing great things. Tonight, we're having Nick Taylor with Found North on, and they are doing some amazing things with Canadian whiskey. And, as a bourbon lover, I wasn't sure how much I would like this. And I got to tell you guys, I absolutely love it. We're going to go through and taste 3 bottles tonight, an 8-year batch 5, a 17-year batch 6, but the 17-year, I think it's 17 up to 25 or 26 years, I think. As you guys know, the youngest age has to be stated on the bottle. And then we're going to do a PX sherry finished Benny's pick. So that'll be really exciting. If you guys can hear me in the chat, say so, post something and let me know. I think everything's okay though. We are going to go ahead and get Nick in right away and get started here. So let me add him to the chat. Hey, Nick.
What's up?
How are you, man?
Oh, I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sending these bottles to me. I was super excited to get them, and even more excited once I tried them. But I gotta tell you first. We were talking a little bit in the green room, and I didn't say anything. But what caught me most about your email, we get emails from, distilleries asking us to try stuff. Okay, Daniel says, "Yep, all good." So, all right, good. I thought the coolest thing, I don't know if this means a lot to me, is you actually asked me about my wife and how my wife was doing. So thanks, man. I appreciate that. It's awesome when a distillery actually reaches out and watches the channel and actually knows a little bit about who they're emailing. So that was pretty cool. So
Yeah, no, of course. No. I think it would be a disservice not to watch some of these really awesome live streams that are on. I think it's one of the coolest aspects of where whiskey's gone in the last few years. I know, like, COVID is miserable and it sucked, but the silver lining for the whiskey industry was like, hey, man, I can talk to you and talk to customers, and I'm sitting in my basement,
yeah.
and we can do it live. And the amount of just phenomenal content that has come out in the last few years is just awesome, yourself included. So it's
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
it's a real pleasure to be on with you.
I don't know how high up I am on that list, but I appreciate that. It's COVID was kind of a crazy thing because, um, you know, I always say whiskey is kind of the conduit for relationships. And I've met so many. The best part about this entire channel, honestly, isn't the whiskey. It's all the people I've met through the channel. We started having our own Patreon meetups. And we had weekends together. And then we even did a whiskey festival last year. And just have met the most amazing people that have become some of my best friends. We went on lots of trips and done lots of things together. So
Man, that's awesome.
yeah. So when you can, I don't know if you ever think about that when you're blending whiskey or making whiskey, but you get a great bottle of whiskey and some friends, and it just, it's a special thing.
We That's funny. We're obsessed with the community aspect of whiskey. I think when we wrote our original, like, contact us, I don't know if we still have it up there. My brother and co-founder's in charge of our website. When we first posted it, we were like, it's all about the community. So, like, please reach out to us. We respond to literally every single email we ever get.
That's
If you
awesome.
email founders@foundnorthwhiskey.com, it goes right to my brother and me, and we dig right in. We love it. I get really cool. Like, my favorite thing is we're Canadian whiskey, right? And I
Yeah.
know you and I were talking beforehand, and we were talking a little bit about this. People don't know what to expect with Canadian whiskey these days, and or they have expectations, and they're not the ones we want them to have about our whiskey.
Sure.
But it's really fun. We get photos of people sending us, like, hey, I put your whiskey in with, this brand, this brand, this brand, and it's like bourbon, 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 rye. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, and everybody was going crazy about batch 5, and I'm just like, oh, the best thing ever. I love getting that stuff. So we
That's
really
really cool.
think about it.
Yeah, that's great. You said you respond to every email. I don't know. I was a marketing major in college, and so that's kind of a little bit about my background. But one of my favorite people to follow was Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is.
Yes. Yeah.
He's a little loud and brash and kind
Yeah,
of
totally.
crazy, but he's always like do things for people with the expectation of nothing in return, and that's kind of been like a motto that I took from him back when I was in college, which was a long time ago. Um, and I feel like you guys have some of that, especially like responding to everybody's email and reaching out and asking about my wife. And so before I even tasted the whiskey, if I got to be just 100% honest, everybody watching, I was already like hoping I love this stuff.
Oh, good. I'm glad we were in your good graces before you cracked the bottles. That's always helpful.
Yeah. Well, why don't you I guess tell us a little bit about the company for those that may not know about Found North.
Yeah. So where to start? My brother and I founded Found North. We started as really as like a consulting firm that was doing whiskey education and brand ambassador work for a bunch of different whiskeys, and we kind of parlayed that into getting an importing license, and we were importing a few things and really kind of just taking our time, because for us the real vision was always to make whiskey in some capacity. We weren't. It wasn't like we woke up one morning, we were like, Canadian, that's us, two American guys, we're gonna make Canadian. Like, no, it wasn't like that at all. It was very much exploring the world of whiskey and seeing where there was really an opportunity to push the industry forward a little bit. We're big whiskey historians. We're big into the tradition of history. Sorry, the tradition of whiskey and the history of whiskey. And we were just constantly looking for, like, all right, what's something that is either underappreciated or people aren't doing well, or whatever we could find. And
Yeah.
that took us to like 150 distilleries, to be honest. Like,
Well,
we've
let me just say thank you for not doing another 4 or 5 year MGP.
Okay, so that was a big thing for us. And really when COVID hit, we hadn't pulled the trigger on anything. We had samples from all over the world, and we had gone to distilleries, and we had looked at MGP, and we looked at things, and we just hadn't really pulled the trigger on anything. And the really interesting thing about COVID was we lost all our contracts. All our contracts went away overnight, and we were kind of in that spot where it was like, all right, we either go for it and we launch a brand like we've wanted to for the last 5 years, or we shut this thing down. And we just felt like we put way too much work into it. And my brother had been to Whiskey Live in Paris a few months earlier, and he had gotten a bead on a incredible sample of rye from Canada, and that's really where we started. And our attitude was like, and you'll notice none of the whiskeys. Well, actually, the sherry you're drinking is rye, but you'll see batch 5 and 6, neither of which are rye. But for us, the first thing we found from Canada that we were like, oh wow, this is absolutely delicious, was a rye sample. It was a 16-year rye aged in Hungarian oak. And it was phenomenal. It was feisty and hard to work with, and just like rye is a cranky a grain to work with, but it was just stunning. And we sort of said, all right, people are starting to know that a lot of the best rye and some of these really interesting whiskeys are from Canada, even if the brands are not willing to disclose that, American brands. And so we said, all right, we think the consumer would rather the transparency and know what the product is from, where it's from, how it was made, etc., than to sort of strictly adhere to kind of a categorical kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so we started blending we started blending our first whiskey. It
Now,
was a
what year
shit
was this?
show.
What?
We were blending from we found this whiskey in April of 2020,
Okay.
and we launched our first whiskey in April of 2021. Um,
Wow.
Actually, the crazy thing about the first two batches we made, we did all the blending as a team without any of us ever being in the same room because of COVID, which was kind of nuts. But basically, we were like sending samples to each other and saying, "Okay, I made this. What do you think?" And so we started with a rye, which was batch one. But batch two was really where things got super interesting because we wanted to come out with two whiskeys because it just you kind of look stupid if you come out with just one whiskey. I don't know why. We just felt that way. We were like, hey, this is our brand. Here's our only whiskey we make, you know?
Yeah.
So we started making another rye, but the more we blended in the corn components, the better the whiskey got. And we actually ended up at 80-20 corn to rye. And we were just like, we didn't even know what the hell to call it. We just called it cask strength whiskey. It's not bourbon. It's not Canadian.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was bottled here. It was blended here, but it was sourced from Canada, and it didn't fall into any category. And we were kind of just like, we were just following the whiskey, and our hope was people will taste it and give it a try because it had a substantial age statement. It was cask strength. It was nacho filtered. It was no color added or anything like that. And of course, people like bourbon, and so it's not super surprising that they liked the whiskey that tasted more like bourbon, and
Yeah.
it sold incredibly well. Both whiskeys won double gold at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition that year, which was kind of like, oh crap, we made a whiskey and people kind of like it. And things sort of spiraled from there to 2 years later, and I'm making 5 blends over the last 2 weeks. But
That's
that's the
incredible.
origin story of Found North.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let me back up because you flew past one thing. You made it sound like it was a real simple decision to start a whiskey company. And as somebody who just kind of launched a 501c3, it was not easy, and there were so many logistical problems. I can't even possibly fathom like deciding to start a whiskey company and everything that's involved with it.
I my yeah, my it's funny because my brother and I worked together. We did our first startup together in 2013, and we got our
Wow.
teeth kicked in. And it was not a whiskey company. I actually started working in whiskey the next year. But we always kind of said like, hey, we went our separate ways, but we were always kind of like, hey, if one of us gets an opportunity and we can work together again, we want to do that. That's kind of making whiskey was always a dream of mine, but making whiskey with my brother is actually like really the dream because
Yeah.
we're very close. We've always been really close. And so I remember I called him in 2016, and I said we got to start a whiskey. We got to start a whiskey company. We've got to do this. And he moved back to Boston, and we started small, but it wasn't an overnight decision. It was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we'd been working at it for
yeah.
3 years before we really like sunk our teeth into something.
Yeah, well, as somebody with an entrepreneurial spirit, it's like so many people let the start stop them, and you think about all these reasons why not to do things, and
Yes.
I've been just dumb enough to go, I'm just gonna jump in and do it and tackle things as they come, and it sounds like you and your brother are very much like that.
Very much like that. Yeah,
So
totally.
where's that come from? Were your parents entrepreneurs, or did you
Oh
just
man.
always kinda have
Yes.
that? Yeah?
Yeah, we had some entrepreneurs in the family. I mean, my mom's a lawyer, but
Okay, okay.
but that's actually
That's really
incredibly
good.
useful.
Yeah, yeah.
We get incredible legal advice
Yeah, that's
at very
incredible.
low cost. Just a few bottles of whiskey, and she'll take care of us. But no, our dad was an entrepreneur, and I think for us. I have this really fun memory um, of when I was 14 and my brother was 18. My brother's 4 years older than I
Okay.
am. I was 14, and we were actually out in the middle of a desert. We were on a family vacation. We were in the middle of a desert, and it was like the middle of the night. You could see 6 billion stars. It was really cool. And my brother just came over to me and put his arm around me, and he was like, "Hey man, one day we are gonna live this big fucking adventure. It's gonna be you and me, and it's gonna be awesome." And for us, you know, what was that adventure gonna be? And for us, it ended up being whiskey, but we always wanted it to be sort of a startup. We always wanted to have that feeling um, of building something that's completely your own, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the fun thing about entrepreneurship is just like it's you own your mistakes and you own your successes 100%, and that's kind of awesome. So that was always how it sort of started.
That's cool, and it sounds like you know, like you said, you got your teeth kicked in the first time, and then you jumped right back in, and that's I mean,
Yep.
that's the same story of all winners, you know? It's you just keep failing till it
Till
hits,
it
right?
works. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, this is awesome, man. And I mean, like I said, you're already off to a good start because you didn't source 4 and 5-year MGP, so I'm already a huge fan.
I look, I have to say, I love MGP.
Oh,
Like,
me
I
too.
think they
Yeah,
make incredible stuff. I think you
yeah,
probably do too. But
yeah,
for us, you know, we didn't want to just be another derivative of MGP and kind of compete for the same liquid. You know what I mean? That there's so
yeah,
many brands that are already there, and MGP does an incredible job of they do an incredible job of creating diversity within their own ecosystem. You know, they let you do different stuff. They let you do your own barrel finishing. They let you control the fill strength. But it's still hard. It still has a distinctiveness. And so I think for us, there were two things that we fell in love with Found North. One was blending. And blending used to be kind of a curse word in
yeah,
whiskey. It's
yeah.
really not anymore. It's really we're kind of getting over that. And the fact is that like you know people don't want to say it, but you ask any master distiller at any of the big bourbon distilleries, how many days a year do you spend distilling, and how many days a year do you spend blending?
Uh-huh.
It's going to be like 3 days distilling, 300 days blending. Most of what a master distiller's job is quality control. It's making sure the blends taste the way they do, and creating new whiskeys by taking different barrels from different parts of your warehouse that were made in a slightly different way and putting them together and controlling the proof and making new whiskeys. And
Mhm.
so much of that is blending. And with Canadian, the cool thing about Canadian is it's designed for that. So effectively, like Canadians make 100% grain whiskeys. So effectively, like 100% corn, 100% rye, 100% wheat, 100% malted barley. They ferment, distill, and age them separately.
And then
Um,
blend, right?
and then blend at the end.
Yeah.
And within that framework, they have pretty loose rules in terms of how they distill it, what the filling strength is, you know, the barrel type has to be, et cetera. And so what they really are doing is creating this big palette of flavors, and then they're allowing the master blender to control the blend. The problem that I have with a lot of Canadian whiskey is that it's really a prisoner of its own success. And when I say that, people are surprised. It's like you never hear about Canadian as being this really successful category, but it's been the number one seller in the United States from 1865 to
Yeah.
2010,
I
and
mean,
it's
I
still the
got
number
started
one.
on Crown.
Right, exactly. And it's still number one selling whiskey in North America by a mile.
Yeah.
And the problem is the expectation of what people are going to get with Canadian tends to be watered down, chill filtered,
Yep.
caramel coloring,
Yep.
not too much interesting aging. You know, they'll reuse casks way too much. And so for us, the attitude was they aren't distilling bad whiskey, they're just not blending it in a way that's really appealing to the I don't know, to you and to
Yeah.
me and
Yeah.
to people who like whiskeys that are a little bit more robust and higher strength and have a little more character to them.
Yeah, and that's why this stuff tastes so amazing. I mean, it's just amped up and it's really, really good. And we'll get into it. We're gonna go through. Nick's gonna taste these with me in a second, but I want to get to some of the things. Bill Kavanaugh said he noticed you have a new background. He must have been on another live stream with a different background.
Yes.
Excited for the S&W release tomorrow. What's that, Nick? Do you know what that is?
S&W release.
Oh, Stuff and Whiskey. I'm sorry.
I didn't know that was coming out tomorrow. I didn't
Yep.
realize they were launching that tomorrow. Oh, that's a hell of a pick. Oh, that's a fun whiskey.
And then, looking forward to seeing you in Chicago. Lance, see you Thursday at Heaven Hill. Yeah, we're going down. So I don't know if you know this, Dick. We started when my wife had cancer. Whiskey Tube did a huge benefit for us, and I wanted to somehow pay that forward. And I didn't know how I was going to do that a year ago when my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, but I had this idea of starting a barrel club and giving 100% proceeds back to charity. So I reached out to Narav, who owns A1 Liquors in Effingham, Illinois, and he's one of my friends, and he buys about 50 to 60 picks a year. And I said, hey, I have this idea. I don't know if it'll work, but I have this idea. And he's like, what do you need? And I was like, well, I would love to get 6 barrels a year. And I reached out to Josh with Stuff and Whiskey and Dusty Dan with Dusty Dan's reviews.
Yeah.
And we started throwing around, like, I think we can get, on the low end, we thought a barrel would yield 140 bottles. So we wanted to get 140 members to assure that every member got a bottle from every pick that we did. And then we wanted to pay their way. We'd select 4 to 5 people every pick to go on the barrel pick with us. And so Narav was gracious, said, I'll donate it to you. If you get your 501c3 set up. So we actually did. And then we'll do 6 picks a year, and we'll have $40,000 minimum to give back to charity every year. And we're going to try to get that, hopefully our 5-year goal, we would love to get that up to 100. But we just, the best of my people, the best of Stuff and Whiskey's people, and the best of Dusty Dan's people just all came together. We sold out of memberships in a day. And we created this 501c3 that's called Barrels for Hope. And I think we're going to be able to help a lot of people. We're mainly focusing on cancer, mental health, military, and children the first year. And then the second year, we're going to let our members vote on where the money goes. So that's one of the examples of just how amazing this community is,
Yeah, man, that gives me, I got goosebumps. That's really awesome.
Yeah. It's definitely, my wife and I were talking, it's like, there's this great meme, and it's something to the effect that, you ask the universe or God or whatever you believe in, why'd you make this last year so hard? And he replied, if I didn't, you would have never got off your ass and did anything. So that's kind of how we feel. Like this would have never happened had this bad thing not happened to us. So it's pretty special, but it only happens with, all the people that are behind us, wanting to see this thing, succeed. So it's a really cool thing.
That's incredible.
JCB said, do I hear or see an aged Found North finish, toasted or sherry or port or combo rye for Barrels for Hope? There you go.
We will talk after.
All right.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's
now everybody's asking, we get a Barrels for Hope pick. We'll see what we can do. We haven't filled our 6 picks yet, Nick. So I think we've got 4. We've got 2 more to settle on. So
when do you pick them?
So let's see. We're going to Heaven Hill. We're doing Elijah Craig barrel proof pick next Wednesday. That'll be our we really swung for the fences on the founders pick. And the second pick is going to be a hard truth pick. And our third one, we're doing a Makers private select pick. I think
Makers picks are fun.
Yeah, they're so much fun. And that's one of the things, like, I was lucky enough to go on one, but so many people will never have that opportunity. And we wanted to make that part of our barrel pick club. Is, it's a bucket list item for so many people. And
totally.
to be able to have them go on a Makers pick will be, that's one of the best experiences there is, I think.
Yeah, the barrel picking experience is really cool. I worked in I started my whiskey career as a spirits buyer and a whiskey specialist at a chain of retail stores in Massachusetts. And we were lucky enough to do a lot of mostly Kentucky trips, although we did a Scotland trip, which was really cool to do a barrel pick. So we got to kind of mix it up and do a bunch of picks, and Maker's Mark was always a fun one to do. But an ECBP, oh man, what
Yeah.
I would have given to be able to do one of those, like
Yeah.
2014 when I was just starting to do picks. That would have been incredible. I am very jealous.
I think Bernie Lubbers is gonna join us on that pick
Oh
too. So
wow. Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome.
So
That's fun.
it'll be amazing way to kick off Barrels for Hope. So we
That's
just
really
launched
cool.
it. Like, I mean, we've been working on it for months, obviously, but just launched it. I don't know, if a couple weeks ago,
Wow.
and got our first 3 picks lined up, and trying to get our last 3. So it's just, the timing of it. Rob doesn't know when his distributors are going to have certain
Yeah,
barrels and
totally.
what he's going to sell in the store and what we can get. So it's a juggling act, and then trying to get, we all have full-time jobs and families, so getting our schedules all lined up, and then it's the logistics of it
It's
is a nightmare.
it's not easy. No,
Yeah,
no, no,
yeah.
no. It is not easy. It's not easy.
But the cool thing, what we love is introducing brands like these that are really good that people probably haven't heard of yet. That they might be passing up on the shelf. So that's why when you reached out to me, I was like, heck yeah, man. I hope I like your whiskey, and I did. So
Oh man. Well, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm excited to go through the single barrel with you now. That's going to be particularly fun.
yeah, yeah. Peter says, nice to see these high aged Canadian whiskey distillates get blended and bottled because the Canadian distilleries will not do it. Yeah, yeah. They water it down, add stuff to it. And you said you guys don't add any additives. It's non-chill
Nothing.
filtered.
Not filtered.
Yeah.
Cast
Awesome.
strength, not filtered, no additives. Honestly, it's like for us, that's basically table stakes at this point. It's not like it's not a pound the table. This is us. This is our brand. We're non-chill filtered cast strength caramel coloring. It's basically like, no, this is where we started from. What we're really about is I think the big thing for us is um, blending is so much of the it's so much of the really fun flavor creation aspect of the whiskey. I love my one of the guys on our team, our director of whiskey innovation, which I always love that title, Sammy, who I've worked with for years. Sammy always says, with blending, 2 plus 2 doesn't always equal 4. Sometimes 2 plus 2 equals banana. It's just kind of like, when you're blending, there's an aspect of it that is that's very calculating. You're like, okay, I have these flavors, I have these flavors. If I combine them, I feel like I sort of have a sense of what I'm going to get. And so there is a degree to which you're really planning what you're doing, and you're setting your expectations. But it's wild because every once in a while you really do get this flavor plus this flavor. Just where did that come from?
Yeah.
And so there's really an awesome component of blending, which is we always just say it's like following the whiskey. Actually, batch five was very much kind of it was just an instinctive experimentation that Sammy did.
You wanna pour batch 5 right now since we're
Yeah,
leading
let's
into
do
it?
it. Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I didn't mean to cut you off, Nick.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
This is what the batch 5 looks like if I can get my face out of the way. Um, what's your process? What are you thinking about when you're starting a blend?
When we're starting a blend, the crazy thing is when we first started, there were different expectations. So when we first started, the only thing we cared about was being legally a rye. We just wanted to be above 50% rye, and we wanted to make the best whiskey we possibly could. And there wasn't much more to it than that. and there was a lot of throwing the paint at the wall and it not working. Blending is hard. Blending is a lot harder than I well, I thought it was going to be hard, and then it was even harder. But basically, when we started, we really didn't appreciate how much palate fatigue affects your ability to blend. We would make these blends, and we'd be on our like 15th test sample of the afternoon. We'd be drunk, and we'd be sure we had finally made something really good. And then you try it in the morning, and you'd be like, "What the hell were we thinking?" And really, what's interesting about the way your palate works is the way palate fatigue works is when you're smelling something, what you're doing is you're literally inhaling a molecule. That molecule is hitting a receptor that is designed to receive that molecule, and then sending a signal to your brain telling you what it tastes like. And taste is really just smell, because we can only taste sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, right? We basically can't taste anything. Our sense of smell is really our sense of taste. But what happens is when you're smelling the same thing over and over again, you're hitting the same receptor in your olfactory system, and you're effectively exhausting the hell out of it to the point where it stops sending signals to your brain. And so when you're blending with the same components, it actually happens incredibly quickly. After about 4 whiskeys, we find that we're losing a lot of our precision. And so when you have, say, 20 different components that you're blending from, you can make an infinite amount of whiskey, right? Like if you can blend 20 different things at whatever ratios you want, it's literally a number that it's a number of possible combinations that I literally don't know the number of, right? Like it's so big that it's just ridiculous. So after a couple months of really screwing up a lot of whiskey, we went back to an interview that I had done of Brent Elliott back in 2017, and Brent Elliott being the master distiller of Four Roses. And I asked him how he made small batch limited edition. And he said once he had narrowed it down to the components that he wanted to work with, the different whiskeys that he was going to work with, he spent a long time just getting really familiar with them. And then he would start conceptualizing in his head how he thought they would work together. And then he would start doing test blends.
Yeah.
And so what we stopped doing was trying to make blends. And what we started doing was trying to get really familiar with the components themselves. And then once we had a really interesting component, then we started building around it. And so we'd say, okay, we have this really interesting component. It has these sharp edges, but it also has these incredible spice notes, for example. How do we round those sharp edges and kind of make it a little bit more of a balanced whiskey, but also not just avoid losing that spice note, but build around that spice note so that it really enhances it. And so the example here with batch 5 is the only 2 whiskey blend we've ever done. It's a blend of 27% 8-year-old wheat, 100% wheat whiskey that was aged in new wood, blended with 73% 21-year-old corn that was also aged in new wood. And so this
it says 8 years on there, but the majority of it's a lot older.
Majority of it is 21-year-old whiskey. And what happened was we started with the wheat component, and the wheat component was friggin' awesome. The wheat component was so cool. It was everything we like about wheat, right? And if you have any, of the classic wheaters, you'll find a mintiness, kind of a shortbread, almost buttery, a little bit like wheat bread, right? I mean, it has those really interesting characteristics. The problem is it tends to be a little hot and a little astringent when it's young. And when it's old, it tends to lose its wheat character. That's why it's so hard for American distilleries to make really good wheaters. There are a handful of them, but when they do it, it's like, you get that sense of mind explosion. And so for us, we were like, all right, we have this wheat. It has all of these incredible butterscotch notes. It has all of this shortbread cookie. It has all of this kind of fresh mint, a little tobacco. It's everything we like about wheat, but it's it's a bulldozer. And so what we did was we said, how do we give it more mouthfeel? How do we make it even more sort of creamy and bring that out? And how do we just settle down the whiskey so that it doesn't hit all at once and kind of disappear? And the answer was super old corn. Just use really old corn that was in new wood. And so it had lots of caramel. It had lots of what we were looking for from a wood spice component. And you started adding a little bit of that kind of cinnamon note that you get from old corn and new wood. And you put that with the kind of buttery note, and you have you have cinnamon sugar toast, which is like my favorite food in the world.
Yeah.
That was the approach with this whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed so many of the notes I was picking up, but I get like a overwhelming like vanilla fair taffy to it, and almost like and sometimes like sometimes I'll get this in light whiskey as well. It has this texture to it that this may not make any sense, but it reminds me of cotton candy. And so I get this like vanilla fair taffy cotton candy thing. There's also a little bit of that mint. It's fantastic. Tobacco for sure. It's just really good, man. I mean, you blended the heck out of this thing. It's so good. I think people would be amazed. So
this is a funny whiskey because a lot of times, I get asked all the time, what's your favorite whiskey you've made? And we've made 6 batches and, more than a dozen single barrels. And now I've got 5 more whiskeys in the pipeline, plus a whole new batches of single barrels coming out later this year. And so you start kind of being like, well, shit, like I like all the whiskey that we make. It's how do you decide? And one of the things that I've started saying is there's whiskey that's the most pleasing, and there's whiskey that might be the best that you've made. And those things aren't always the same. There's like, it's a little bit like music. If you ask a musician, like, hey, what's your favorite song you've ever made? And it's kind of like, well, I got stuff that's really catchy that like I love to just throw on, but I've also got this beautiful piece I did that's maybe my favorite thing I've ever made. And you start realizing that just putting them on sort of like a linear scale doesn't really make sense. Oh, my favorite is 5, and then my second favorite 6. It's like it's very different circumstances. All of that is to say, I think batch 5 is the most pleasing whiskey we've made. When I drink it, I am just in a good mood. This is a whiskey that I like to just like end of a hard day. I just want to pour 2 fingers of this and like put on the fire and watch a game. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of whiskey this is for me.
It's so good, man. The other thing about blending too, like, I'll do like infinity bottles or my own blends in the house, and I'll think they're great. The next week I'll come back to them and I'll do the same thing. I'll be like, what the hell was I thinking? This is awful now. And then, a month later I go back to it and I'm like, holy crap, this thing's fantastic now. Just I don't know how long you guys usually let your blend sit, but for me at my house, being very novice, it changes a lot.
Yes. That was one of the really early lessons. That was one of the really early lessons that we learned the hard way, which is they're very reactive. When you put multiple different types of whiskey together, one of the first things that happen is they get really hot. I mean, the burn is way, way higher really early on. And it was pretty funny because when we were blending batch 1 and 2, we didn't fully appreciate this. So we make the batch, we try it, and we were like, man, these whiskeys are good, but they're a little they're a little hot. We're really tasting the proof, and then when we got test blends, so basically like we create the ratios, and then we send the ratios out to a distillery or multiple distilleries actually now in Canada, and then they send us a test blend and say, it's like, is this what you expected it to taste like? And it was always better. The test blend was always better because it spent like 3 days in transit marrying together. So
Yeah.
It has a lot to do with the amount of with the volume. Honestly, like when we do things in tote, and you're talking about 1,000 liters, it needs weeks before it really settles. When you're doing like a quarter ounce pour, it needs 20 minutes,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it just
How
depends on
how
the
long
volume.
how long do you know how long Four Roses lets their LE sit?
That the SBLE, I don't
Yeah.
know. I think standard for them, SBLE is usually what, like 12,000 bottle release. That's what it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
5 years ago. I don't know if they've stayed or
I think
increased
they've
it.
stayed pretty close.
Pretty close. I remember when it
Yeah,
first came
maybe
out,
up
it was
to
like
14.
3,000 bottles, and then they
Yeah.
suddenly were like, "Oh shit, we gotta make way more than that." So if you're talking about 13, 14,000 bottles, um, you're talking about 10,000 liters, something like that, right? So if it's 10,000 liters, that's 10 totes. They're probably putting it in a bunch of different marrying vessels. My guess is it needs at least 6 weeks. And industry standard is usually like for bigger releases is 6 to 12 weeks is kind of your minimum amount of time. Some people swear by longer production
Yeah.
processes, particularly in the single malt business. So like the Glenfiddich 15 Solera vatting is a Solera vatting, right? So they
Yeah.
really believe like it needs months. Some like Chichibu does that in Japan. They're really neurotic about how long it has to vat. They have a French egg. That's actually one of the coolest distilleries I've ever
Huh.
visited. But basically, like most people think they need at least 6 weeks. If you're doing smaller amounts, you can get away with shorter period.
Interesting. Yeah, Four Roses has become, I mean, it's one of my favorites. I freaking love that stuff, man.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. And the funny thing is, Four Roses was originally owned by Seagram's, right?
Yeah.
So like it's an old blended whiskey
Yeah.
that just got. And I think that was one of the reasons we were so drawn to it. It's because they make their 10 recipes at the
Yeah.
distillery, and then you know
Yeah. Well,
I'm obsessed.
yeah, well, you were talking about blending kind of being this bad word, but I don't think it is so much anymore. Companies
I
like
agree.
Barrel are doing good. Well, I mean, even in Scotch, Compass Box is killing it on their blends. So, you know, I think people are,
Barrel's been a big leader for sure in that
yeah,
in that.
yeah,
Yeah.
they've been doing some good things, some good things. So, uh,
They've dabbled in some Canadian stuff that's been really excellent as well.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
very many American brands have done Canadian blends very well. Some have been good at like, all right, we're gonna buy this lot of rye and then we're gonna bottle it, and that's gonna be it. But it's you've seen very few of these American brands actually doing the blending themselves.
was
I hope that changes.
was Bardstown, was there Disco 7? Was that just corn whiskey or was that Canadian? I think it was just, I don't know if that was Canadian or not.
I don't remember.
I
I
think it
don't
had
remember off
light
the top of my
whiskey in
head.
it, but I don't remember where it was
Mm-hmm.
from. But that Disco 7 was pretty good. I loved it. It was good. Let's see. Oh, yeah, you wanna tell people real quick, I saw this question, that Peter would buy multiples if he could, but none are in Canada, where they can find, Found North.
Yeah, so we have a store locator that's pretty up to date on our website. So if you go to foundnorthwhiskey.com, you can find where we are for the most part. But one of the things we did right away was because we're very we're very um, digital focused. We do like a lot of YouTube stuff, and we try to sort of tap into this kind of discovery. We want to come to where the most diehard whiskey fans are, and they happen to live on YouTube. So one of the things we did right away was we partnered with a third party ecom provider that can ship to like 40 some odd states. And then we're also at we're with Sealbox and Shared Pour. And so those guys can cover a few more states as well. And then I know Kavana down there is letting everyone know about Binny's carries us. because Illinois is a nightmare to try to ship into.
Yeah,
In
we
fact,
know.
no one will do it. As
We're getting
far as
ready to taste
Canada,
that, Bill.
yeah, yeah. As far as Canada, ironically, we have all our licensing in the U.S., and it is a hell of a time getting distribution in Canada. We're working on it. We will be available in Canada as soon as we can. Um, in the meantime, there's a cool little retailer in New York called the Wine Spot. Um, they'll actually ship to some places in Canada. Um, they're worth a try. And frankly, like I said before, email me. I'll try to help you. Email me at nick@foundnorthwhiskey.com. I'll try to help you find a bottle if you're looking for one.
The shipping thing is the most frustrating thing, man. I mean, I get it. I know why. It's money. But man, it's like I can go buy a car in any other state and pay taxes in another state. Why? It's
Why is it? No, it's honestly, no, don't even get me started because it's fundamentally unconstitutional.
yeah,
Literally, there is a law called the Commerce Act, which makes it illegal to forbid people from selling state to state. And yet, no one will challenge it with liquor because liquor has incredible lobbyists at the
yeah,
state level. It's kind of crazy.
yep, it is. It is.
It's totally crazy.
Oh, Alex said, "This is the brand that got me into Canadian whiskey, and I live in Canada." There you go.
Oh man,
That's a good
thank you,
that's a good
Alex.
comment. That's great. You wanna get into batch 6? Batch 8, I
Let's
highly
do it.
or batch 5, I highly recommend, guys. It's fantastic. It's so good. And is that still on Seal Box or anything? Or can people still get
Yes,
them?
yes.
Yeah?
Five and six, and I think you actually can still find a little bit of three. But five and six are still around. I know I saw somebody got a sample of four and couldn't find it. If you go to our store locator, you email me. I know where there are a pocket of bottles here and there in different states, but batch four is almost completely sold out. It's completely sold out at wholesale. That being said, batch six is the sequel to batch four. They're probably the most similar two whiskeys that we've made
Okay.
stylistically. Um, batch four was a fun whiskey. That was actually that one won the John Barleycorn Best Canadian Whiskey last year,
Oh, nice.
which was really exciting because that's such a I don't know, they have a very American palate. It's like a very that group of reviewers really likes like a very specific palette, and we fit into it nicely. So it was good to see that work out for us. But we basically when we made batch two is this 80-20 corn to rye whiskey. We didn't remake the same thing with batch four, but we stayed right there. It was 80% corn, 19% rye, 1% malted barley, and just with slightly different components. And with batch six, sort of people started expecting us to make this type of whiskey. It kind of became a little bit of our signature. So with batch six, we actually goosed the corn up a little bit. So it's 87% corn, 12% rye, 1% malted barley. It is a blend of 5 different whiskeys ranging from 17 to 26 years old. We have a 17-year corn component, a 21-year corn component, and a 26-year corn component aged in Hungarian oak. Hungarian oak is incredibly cool. It's a little tighter grained, but it has huge wood sugar density. So it ends up throwing these kind of like molasses notes without the associative super sort of tannic flavor that you'd get from kind of a hyper aged whiskey. And so you can kind of get these really thick, viscous, sweet notes without it getting that kind of pencil shaving, bitter, dry thing that you get with like super, super aged bourbons. And then the ryes in here, there was an 18-year and a 19-year rye. One was a rechar rye. So dechar, rechar, they script the inside of the barrel, they rechar it, they fill it back up. And one was also actually Hungarian oak rye. which was
Wow.
the OG rye. It was the first rye we ever bought. It was the whiskey
Oh,
that kind
really?
of got us started. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So
Wow.
it's aged a few years older. We didn't use all of it at once. We the crazy thing about this whiskey is when we blend it like as a 10% component, it'll dominate the whiskey. We really
Okay.
have to keep it under 10% to keep it from just taking over the whiskey. So it's very much it's like our entire spice cabinet. It's really fun. But yeah, so we made this. This is 128.2 proof. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, it's so good, man. It's I don't know which one I like better. It's close. This is like the weirdest thing. This isn't probably gonna sound good because I just have these weird notes sometimes. But this is like if you had cantaloupe and you poured maple syrup over it or something. It's just bizarre.
That's perfect. Wait, why is that a bad thing?
I don't know. It doesn't sound great,
Who
but
would
it's so
like
good.
that? No, I honestly, that's spot on. I mean,
There's a
that's like really spot on.
There's a very strong cantaloupe note to it. We did this, my first pick I ever did for our patrons was a 95.5 rye. It was a Stellum rye MGP. And I think it came out to like 7 years. And when the rep brought all these samples to me, this is the only, well, there were two that I really liked, but this one had this note of like honeydew melon that was just overwhelming to me, and we called the pick one in a melon, and this has that similar kind of that melon note, but it's more cantaloupe than like honeydew melon for me.
Totally.
But it's so good, man. It's fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, that the cool thing about all right, so the really cool thing about rye is when you age it long enough, it starts to produce really great fruit notes.
Mm,
So most of the fruit notes were actually coming from that rechar rye we used.
okay.
And the other interesting thing about not putting it in new wood is new wood will do lovely things to the whiskey for certain, but it also tends to drown out fruit character. So with this whiskey, like we really were getting the kind of heavy molasses maple syrup,
Yeah.
um, burnt brown sugar notes from the super old corn. Um, but we were totally getting that kind of melon, that really interesting kind of bright fruit notes from the rye, and not everybody can taste that. So I'm pretty delighted that you nailed that right on the head, because it's not easy. You get wrapped up in kind of the molasses and the heavier notes, and it's hard to notice the top notes.
I don't know what it is but melon notes really stand out. In fact, like the guys we were tasting the picks with were like, you can't tell the difference. So I left and my wife switched them up, and I came back in. I tasted one of them. I was like, that's the honeydew melon. I know it. It's just that note stands out to me for some reason. And I get it really strong in this.
I
But
I,
with, like
I
you said,
love that.
yeah, all the maple syrup, and whereas batch 5 is for me is more like fair vanilla laffy taffy and that cotton candiness. This and a little bit of tobacco and mint. This has more maple syrup, more melon notes. It still kind of has this, it tastes like it has the same DNA as batch 5. There's some similar characteristics between the two. But the melon and the molasses just kind of stand out a little bit more for me in
That's
batch 6.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, all right. I see a question from Steve about sort of similarities and differences with light whiskey
Yeah.
and Canadian corn.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much has some similarities. I whoever came up with the term light whiskey really did whiskey a disservice, because
Yeah.
it's the opposite. It tends to be kind of the opposite of light. It actually tends to be really, really oily and viscous. The higher distillation proof, which is really the fundamental difference here. So with bourbon can't be distilled above 180. Once it gets over 180, it's a light whiskey. Um, Canadian whiskey, they don't have that regulation, and sometimes their corns are going up close to 190, and sometimes they're staying below 180. So from a designation standpoint, sometimes it would qualify in the U.S. as light whiskey. The really interesting aspect is to me, I think one of the most sort of underappreciated aspects of whiskey, and I think it's part of the secret sauce with why bourbon has been such a delicious profile for so long, is filling strength. Filling strength is so important because you're effectively getting two reactions in the wood. You're getting ethanolysis, which is the ethanol interacting with the wood. You're also getting hydrolysis, which is the water interacting with the wood. And when you do, basically, when your filling strength is too high, the ethanol tends to be really stable, and you really only get ethanolysis. And so more than just the distillation strength that they started with, where they bring it down to before they put it into wood makes such a difference in terms of what character you're going to get. So by law, bourbon can't be put in wood at above 125. And so it's interesting for us when we are looking at the components that we're buying from Canada. We're very interested not just in, okay, what was the distillation technique? Because they do it all. They do double column distilled. They do column into pot the way we would do it with bourbon. They do pure, a straight up pot distillation like a single malt Scotch would. And what we're really fascinated by is, okay, what did you bring it down to when you filled it? And we'd actually rather that number be a little bit lower. And so we're a little neurotic about that because we like getting the hydrolysis. We like the water interaction with the wood, which pulls out some good character from it.
Oh, I love all the nerdy stuff, man. It's fantastic.
Oh God, I geek over whiskey so hard. My brother is always like, "Hey, buddy, you gotta like lock it up because you're."
No. You can with this crowd. With this crowd, you can go as long as you want on that stuff, man. It's funny. It is such an art form. Whiskey is such an art form. Blending is such an art form. I say this all the time in my reviews. When I started this channel, one of my grading categories was the appearance of the bottle, and I got crapped on so much for it, and I still have it to this day. I haven't budged because I think that the bottle should represent the artwork of the distiller or the blender. And to me, it's important. It's handicapped category, so it's not super important, but it is important. And that leads me to the sign behind you and your bottles. They're beautiful, man. The map is great, man. I love the design of it. I love, they're great. They're great.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I'm with you. I think, it's kind of like where and when you drink a whiskey obviously matters, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
I can remember the pour I had on the morning of my wedding, right? Like I know exactly what it tastes. I can remember it, and it had a really wonderful taste just because of the day, just because of the moment, just because of the time. And so as much as like who you're with and where you're at and what you're pouring the whiskey for can have such an impact on how you experience the whiskey. I think the bottle, absolutely. It's just another component of the experience. I appreciate it. We got the design of this bottle was actually done mostly in-house. I don't have a design bone in my body, ironically. Good at blending whiskey. But I'm the worst member of I have the worst ideas. I had the only idea I had that was a contribution to this bottle was the little dotted lines, the little trails.
Yeah,
that was me.
That's you.
Yeah, that was me. I was like, wait, we need little trails. And that was very much the embodiment of our attitude, which has always been follow the whiskey, follow the whiskey, follow the whiskey, do what the whiskey. When we released the 8-year and we had to call it an 8-year, that was very much shit. We got to hope people read about it and don't just go, oh man, an 8-year for over $100. Like, geez, I don't know if I'm buying into this. It's like, well, wait a second. We use mostly 21-year-old whiskey, but we just made the best whiskey we could, and then we trust it. And that's
I wish there was some way you could say aged 8 years with a lot of 21.
It says it right on the bottle.
Oh, it does?
It says it. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
shit, I
yeah.
didn't even notice that.
1 to 73% 21-year corn and 27% 8-year-old wheat.
Okay, just tell your design team that needs to be a little bigger.
That needs to be bigger. I know.
That's great, man. That's too funny.
That's funny.
I love it. Yeah, I did not even notice that when I was looking at it,
Yeah, you're
but
not
yeah,
the only one.
I'm getting old and need glasses, so well, there's people, let's see. Mike just bought batch 4.
Oh, baby.
Let's see. Peter or Alex said he just purchased Found North 5 and 6 just now, so they must be
Yes,
finding
thank
it
you,
online.
Alex.
So awesome, man.
I love
Good,
it.
good deal. Well, yeah, the bottle's beautiful, man. I love it. I guess the flip side of that can be true too. The older the whiskey and the shittier looking the label, the kind of cooler it is as well, right? Like,
Yes, yeah.
you get a super
Totally.
vintage bottle that looks like shit. It's like those mellow corn bottles in 100 years are gonna look awesome.
Hey,
Right?
man, I like the glut for me, like glut era bourbon.
Yeah.
Oh, like a 1980s like plastic bottle early times.
Oh
Whoo, that
yeah.
juice is good.
Yeah.
That juice
Yeah.
is good. Like you can find some really good ND stuff that
Yeah.
just blows your mind, and it's just the shittiest, ugliest old labels, and you're like, I love it when they have the price tag, the old price
Yeah.
gun price tag, and you'll have bought it on secondary for like $4.50, and the little price tag on there is like $5.95. It's like,
It's great. I love it. We're going to, like I say, we're going to Kentucky next Wednesday, and Dusty Dan's coming, and I think he's bringing some
baby.
pre-prohibition bottles for us to crack open to try. So I'm excited for that.
That'd be fun. That'd be really
Well,
fun.
do you want to get into
Let's
this
do it.
single barrel?
Yes.
So
Yes,
this
please.
is 114.2 proof PX sherry finished rye, right?
Yes.
What's the percentage of rye? I can't see without
66% rye, 30% corn, 4% malted barley. To be clear, we don't sprinkle in drops of malted barley. We get asked that sometimes because it's like, why would you put 1% malted barley? Even though, so with Canadian whiskey, the
Jesus, dude,
Canadians.
this smells phenomenal. Sorry, go ahead.
So with Canadian whiskey, they figured out they figured out in the early 1900s that they could basically just cultivate the enzymes that are in barley that convert starch to sugar. They could just cultivate them outside of using barley and add it to a corn ferment or a rye ferment or a wheat ferment, and then they weren't required to use malted barley anymore, which was nice actually, because when you're using yeast and you're trying to create certain acids, you don't have to compromise for what grain you're using. That's kind of the secret to Canadian whiskey, is when you do like 100% corn, the yeast you're using is going to be slightly different than if you're using 75% corn, 20% rye, 5% malted barley, something like that. However, the Canadians to this day still often will throw in a little bit of malted barley when they're making rye. They think it makes a more consistent flavor. So for us, whenever there's malted barley in our grain ratio, we're really actually getting that from the rye components. So this is 66 rye, 30% corn, 4% malted barley. And this was aged for. So basically, we wanted a single barrel program, and everything we've said makes single barrels not very easy to do, right? Because we're buying components and blending them. So what the hell are we going to do? Just take like a single barrel of corn or a single barrel of rye? It would defeat the entire purpose of our company. Nonetheless, I'm obsessed with single barrels. Love them. Love the idea. Love the ephemeral nature of them. Right, like this kind of once in a lifetime barrel. Right, no matter what, it's unique. That's the really fun aspect of it, and you get to be involved in picking it. Right, you get to be involved in the production. So for us, what we did was we created a blend, and then we recast that blend into a bunch of different barrel types. So we took 50% 12-year rye, blended it with 20% 19-year rye, and 30% 21-year corn. So it was a 3 whiskey blend. We made that in December of 2021, and then we recast it into 18 different barrels. One of which was a PX Sherry barrel, so a smaller format, and that was purchased by Binny's, and is available there now, and is one of the more,
dude.
I think it's one of the most fun whiskeys we've made.
Dude, I'm sitting here like giddy about drinking this thing because it's very unique, and that's what there's as we're as reviewers, we're reviewing all these bourbons, and it's the same caramel, brown sugar, that kind of stuff. So when something like this comes along that's so different, it's really exciting to me because right now there's Midwinter Night's Dram, there's Sagamore finished, and there's a lot of sherry. This is different than any of those. This isn't the same thing. This is like, again, for my palate, which may be a lot different than some others, it's very pear forward. It is so much like green, like perfectly ripe pears, like perfectly ready to eat pears. And then it almost has, what's crazy is on the nose, I was smelling like, typical sherry notes like figs and raisins and prunes and those kinds of things. But the taste kind of blew me away. I was like, oh my God, this is like pear juice. And then it kind of reminds me of this, like, it kind of reminds me of what I want Irish whiskey to be. Like Irish whiskey is always like kind of tamed down, not enough. And this is like Irish whiskey with spice and heft and wonderful. I mean, Irish whiskey obviously has a great mouthfeel because of the way it's distilled, but this is a wild ride, man. This is amazing. Good job on this. And whoever picked this for Benny's, I mean, holy cow.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. Yeah, this was the crazy thing about doing this was we knew we were gonna recast all these barrels. So this wasn't the case where we were making a completed whiskey, right? So like with our first 6 batches, when we were done with the blend, we were done with the whiskey, right? It was like, okay, this is the blend. This is exactly how we want it to taste, and it's done. With the blend we were making, knowing that we were going to recast it into all these different blends, you don't actually want to make a done whiskey, right? You want to make the way we say it is, you want to make a whiskey that's got room for wood, that's got actual space for it to fill in the wood notes. And for us, that was terrifying, honestly, because you're like, okay, if this whiskey gets these 3 things or 4 components that these flavors that come in from the wood, we're going to have an awesome whiskey. But right now we're not, it's okay, but it's missing these different pieces that we were really excited about. And honestly, we didn't think, we were like, all right, we're going to do 18 of these, like 12 of them will be good. 6 we'll have to figure out what we're going to do with. They're just all so interesting and different. And we were like, oh man, struck gold. Like really, we were really excited with it. So yeah, this is one of our favorites.
It's really cool. And now the pear to me is like kind of turning into this strawberry. Like,
so strawberry is what I get. I get like a rich, you ever put sugar on strawberries?
Yeah, that's what this is turning into for me.
When my wife makes pancakes, she chops the strawberries into little tiny pieces and she sprinkles sugar on it, and they get kind of like juicier, and it pulls out the kind of like the really fructosey sugar, right? The more fruit forward sort of sweet note. That's 100% what I get with this.
Yeah, it's wild because at first I was picking up more of those kind of melon rye notes, and then it turned into pear, and now it's strawberry. This is the craziest whiskey, dude. It's nuts. It's changing a lot. I was on we were at Hard Truth, and we were thieving through barrels with the master distiller there, and we tasted a whiskey, and I got barbecue. I was like, man, this tastes like burnt ends, and he started laughing, and he was like, it was so funny because our panel of tasters, half the people will get burnt ends and half the people will get dark chocolate or cocoa. And as soon as he said that, I was like, never mind, it's not burnt ends, it's cocoa. That's what I'm tasting. My brain was interpreting it as burnt ends. It's fascinating to me.
So, okay. So the thing about flavor is like when you're born, your brain doesn't have a registry of flavor notes, right? It's
Hmm.
flavor's totally associative. So a lot of times, what you taste or what you smell is um, what you're a little bit more familiar with, right? So like
That makes
um,
sense. I eat a lot of barbecue.
you eat a lot of barbecue, right? Okay, it makes perfect sense. So for me, I remember when I was starting in whiskey, I would read these tasting notes about sherried scotches, and they would say marzipan. I never had marzipan. I don't know what the
Yeah.
hell marzipan is, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I
Right.
had no idea. Um, and so then you taste something and you're like, well, I'm really getting like the filling of fig Newton. And guess what? Like I ate a lot of fig Newtons when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So that's what I get, and that's what I find. But it doesn't mean you're getting different tasting notes. And that's why I think for me, that's why when you're tasting something and someone absolutely nails the note and you just are
Yeah.
like, oh shit, that is exactly what I'm tasting. It's because it like triggers that associative memory, and I love
Yeah.
that aspect. That's why tasting in a group is so fun.
It
You get
is a
in like
lot of
a
fun.
group of people who have good descriptive palate, and it's just like you go you
Yeah.
go on a roller coaster ride.
Yeah. It's the best. Tim said he's seeing a bunch of options at Benny's, doesn't know where to start. What's the top two to get? That's a
Um,
hard question.
I mean, I think the single barrel they did was just the one we're drinking right now would be the number one I'd pick.
Yeah.
Um, then for me, like if you really love rye, I know we're not talking about it right now, but they still have some batch 3 rye, which is 17-year cast strength rye. That thing is one of the most
Wow.
interesting. I think it's the most interesting rye. I obviously I made it, so I think it's the most interesting rye I've ever had. But I'll stick with that. I think if you want like a really interesting fruit forward rye that completely redefines what you would expect from the category, that's the whiskey. If you
I
want
gotta go look
our
for that. I didn't know that.
oh yeah, I'm gonna be in Illinois in 2 weeks, so I'll be connecting with you.
Yeah, do that
Um,
for sure, man. Do that for
yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah. I'll taste you on everything. But I think if you want like a wildebeest, if you want like our heaviest hitting whiskey, it's definitely batch 6. If you want something that's just an absolute drinker, it's batch 5. And if you want probably I think maybe our most complex whiskey, it's probably batch 4. So that's my pitch for all 5 whiskeys.
Yeah, I mean, everyone I've had is just ridiculous. Um, oh, what's up, Terry? Welcome, buddy. Don't worry, it'll be up. Oh yeah, so uh, I try my best, Nick, but sometimes I'm an idiot. I sent samples of what you sent me
Yeah.
to two of our patron members, and on the live stream last week, they're like, "What are these two other things?" And I had FN 17 and FN 8 written on the bottle, and I was like, "I don't know what in the world that would have been." It took me 30 minutes to figure out, and then I sent them. I sent one of them both of the 8s and the other one both of the 17s. So they were gonna
Oh, that's
jump
good.
on and taste them with us tonight, but I screwed it up. So they're just busting my balls.
We should have that FN 17.
Oh
That's
man.
good. That's good. I love it.
So they were two they always come on our live streams. They're two when I was just starting, and I just started with, an iPhone in the corner of the living room, and
Yep.
everything was
Yep.
horrible. I didn't know what I was doing. They were two of my first Patreon members. So
That's awesome. That's totally
and they
awesome.
became two of my best friends. So it's really
Uh,
cool. Uh, let's see. Oh, there's some other people talking in here. Let's go to Mike's question here. I don't know what's K&L. Do you know what K&L is?
K&L is a great retailer based in
Oh, okay.
California.
Oh, okay.
They're kind of they're pretty legendary for their barrel picks. They did a port finish with us, a ruby port finish. Port is a cheat code. Port plus rye is not fair. The way port is made, um, effectively like they make wine, they're making wine, but before the fermentation is done, so while the yeast is still eating the fructose from the wine, um, they add a high proof white brandy to the ferment, and that basically kills the yeast, and so it doesn't ferment all the way, and so there's a bunch of leftover residual sugar, which is why port is inherently sweet. The resulting whiskey, the resulting port, I guess, the resulting fortified wine, when they put it in barrel, starts to pick up this like very sweet chocolatey note. Ports, I'm a huge sucker for port. Like
Me
I
too.
freaking love port in general.
Yeah.
But when you take that barrel type and you put rye in it, it is not fair. And the reason is because rye is inherently a little bit too dry and a little bit too spicy. So you got to kind of find ways to coax some sweetness into it. And so when you take like cinnamon spice and baking spices from the rye and you just slather them in chocolate and like delicious fruity sweetness, it's just a cheat code. I will tell you right now, I'll give you guys a little sneak peek. We are making a new whiskey that will be finished in port that will be available later
Oh,
this year
oh
because
yeah.
it's just absolutely freaking delicious. And I don't think I've ever met a rye aged in port that I was not friends with.
Yeah.
It just really works. So
Yeah.
yes, that was a banger.
So thinking about future things, it sounds like a job interview question, but what do you foresee like the next 5 years for Found North
Oh, I
being?
love that question. Yeah, so for us, what we've been doing is like, okay, so we are obsessed with blending, right? We think the blending aspect is such a fun part of it. But as you can tell, we're already getting into the maturation aspect. So the way I like to think about it is we're effectively working backwards from the end of the process. So we get asked all the time, would you like to distill or would you have someone contract distill for you? The answer is yes. We'd be really interested in that, but not yet. We really want to. What we started with was finding really cool components and blending them. Now what we started to do is buy components and recast them and then blend them, and then sometimes recast them after that. So
Yeah.
we're kind of taking over more and more and more control over the process, and that's really exciting. And obviously, like as you grow, and we're seeing some really great growth right now. The as you grow, you need to sort of plan ahead. So we're buying sort of earlier on in the aging process, and I think eventually we'll probably build a distillery or contract distill. I don't know when that is because I'm having too much damn fun blending and aging stuff because you
Yeah.
really can just. And I think from a sort of like what's our vision in terms of how do we fit into the whiskey category. I think for us, we don't really care. We love Canadian whiskey because the quality of really aged spirit that we can get our hands on that delivers great value to the consumer is like the best right now. We can get 18, 20-year-old, 25-year-old whiskeys to blend with that aren't immediately $800 on the shelf. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's the reality of so many other categories. And so basically, we are so excited about Canadian, um, and we feel like we are making whiskey that I think it'd be arrogant to say is like redefining the category, but nudging it in a new direction.
Yeah.
That's what I'll give us credit for nudging it in a new direction. And if we can keep pushing Canadian and we can keep pushing people into this category and have both the consumer say, "Hey, I wonder what I'm going to expect from Found North and what I'm going to expect from Canadian going forward," and maybe having some producers of Canadian, whether they're American or Canadian, start going, shit, we should look into this a little bit more and start doing a little bit more of what these guys are doing. That would be the dream come true, right? Like
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
be the because we didn't get into this just, I mean, obviously we got into it to try to make great whiskey,
Sure.
but also I'm obsessed with the category of whiskey, like totally fucking obsessed.
Yeah.
I've been
People think
obsessed
I'm
with it.
crazy.
I'm crazy. I've been crazy about whiskey. I'm crazy about the history of whiskey. And I like the idea that the interplay of the producer and the consumer, I think is the coolest thing. Everybody always says like, oh, well, you know, this distillery did this and it changed the industry. Well, why did they do it? They did it because the consumer wanted them to, right? Like there's the consumer is so much more, the whiskey enthusiast is so much more involved in how whiskey tastes than they ever get credit for. So for us, like, yeah, we're opportunistic in the sense that like we saw a way to make Canadian that we think is really new and unique, but it's completely influenced by what people like and what we've heard in the feedback loop that we've existed in for almost 10 years of what people want from whiskey. And so to do something that brings like the producer and the whiskey enthusiast a little bit closer and a little more aligned, shit, man, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that just goes back to your entrepreneurial spirit we were talking about at the beginning of the. I mean, yeah, that's amazing, man. So I don't know if I can, if you can answer this, but is it over the last year or two, is it harder for you guys to buy these aged barrels, or is how can you answer that, or is that?
Yeah, my brother's is the smart one. My brother,
I'd say you're pretty smart, buddy.
I don't know. Yeah, Zach is a mad genius, and he's managed to secure a lot of supply for us. We never took outside funding, so we've basically been self-funded for the most part. And so to sort of come in with relatively empty pockets and to have secured the supply that we've secured, it's a little to do with the whiskey and a lot to do with having a really, really savvy partner in my brother. So we're pretty locked in for the next couple of years, and we are aggressively pursuing old good whiskey, and it happens to all be in Canada.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan just from this one tasting and talking to you, and so I wish you guys nothing but success, man. I really want to see you guys keep crushing it, but all the whiskey enthusiasts that I know that have had your stuff absolutely love it, and you've pushed me definitely towards this category, and I don't know which one I like the best, to be honest with you. I'm sitting here like I'm staring at this. I'm trying to decide which one I like the best, and I don't know, man. There, like you said, it's like asking a musician to pick a favorite song. It's like, what am I in the mood for,
I love that, and that's my favorite. Like, we do tastings. We've done a tasting where we poured 8 whiskeys. It was all 6 batches and 2 of the single barrels. We did it in Saratoga the other day, a couple weeks ago. And I asked, it was like a room full of 40 people. I asked everybody to say what their favorite whiskey was. And my favorite thing about the whole night was, it was like 5 votes for this, 4 votes for this, 4 votes for this, 7 votes for, it was like everybody had their favorite. And I feel like you're making good whiskey if everybody was like, yeah, they've made 6 whiskeys, 5 of them are like, and that one whiskey is the shit that we all try to get. That'd be a bummer. I love the idea that people have their opinions about which is their favorite Found North. I think that's a good sign. So I appreciate it. I take that as a huge compliment.
Oh, well, yeah, man. And the thing with whiskey enthusiasts, we want, we either want, people are chasing the harder to find allocated stuff. And then we just want something unique, something different, something that hits our palate a little bit different. It's like, it'd be like sitting down and, well, some people probably sit down and drink Sprite every night, but as a whiskey enthusiast, we want to expand our palates and taste something different. And this hits that. This is different. It's really good. It's not, there's no youth, obviously, because you guys use incredibly old stuff, but there's no youthful notes. It's not grain forward. It's fantastic stuff, man. I love the complexity of it. And I'm really, the first time I tasted this PX Sherry cask, Yeah, I just sat down. I was watching TV, and I didn't like sit down and really think about it and dissect it. And when I sat down tonight, I was looking at my notes, and I didn't have pears written down, and I didn't have I didn't have Irish whiskey written down, and now it's just turned into this just like completely different animal. And I'm loving it, man. I need to go find a bottle of this and explore it more. It's fun stuff.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Yeah, man. The whiskey I'm going to bring you our first if we can coordinate, and I can say I'm spending like 4 days in Illinois, so hopefully we can
Are you up near Chicago, or are you coming down to
Champaign? Chicago, but I'm moving around because I'm going to a bunch of different binnies to do some seminars.
We have one in Champaign. We have one in Champaign, which is where I live. And so if you're coming anywhere close, let me know, and I'll be there, man. I'll come see you.
Well, we have some free time, so I'll make sure I get over to see you. But the thing I'm going to bring you is the first barrel pick we did. So when we did this, we have something fun, right? Like, all right, single barrels are awesome, but what else is awesome? Store picks. Well, we don't have a gift shop, right? So like, how do you do a store pick? So for us, we do our like, we call them our DTC releases, direct to consumer. So basically, like, if you're on our mailing list, you get a email that says you're going to get the link at this time, and this is when you get to buy the whiskey. We did our first one last I think it was September or October last year. We sold out. We said we sold out in 12 minutes, but it actually turned out we sold out in 7. And it was an absolute. The thing tasted like it tasted like a s'more. Like, straight up, just like a s'more. And I got to bring you that whiskey so you can.
Oh, man.
Bring you that so you can
yeah,
try
I'd love it.
It's a fun one. I think you'll love it.
Well, keep us in mind. I don't want to put any pressure on you, but we'll definitely buy a barrel if we can get a barrel sold to A1 and we can facilitate it through them.
Awesome.
That'd be awesome, man. That'd be great.
That'd be really cool. Yeah, let's talk. I gotta loop in Zach and figure out the logistics of it. And I gotta figure out your timing. Our first season is done, so we're not gonna have whiskey ready for a couple months at least. But
that's perfect. Because we're booked right now through August, September, somewhere around there. So we wouldn't need it till sometime after then, maybe before March of next year. So.
Baby. Okay. Yeah. Let's definitely link up. Okay. All right. Cool.
Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer, Nick. Man, I appreciate everything. Keep doing all the amazing things you guys are doing. I'm so impressed, and I'm a huge fan now. So.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Well, have a good night. I mean, if you want to stay on, you can, but I don't want to keep you. I'm going to have Ben on, and he's got the batch 6 he's going to try. So
that's exciting. No, I should hop off and take care of my dogs. And I was telling you, I can't remember if I told everybody else, but I've been blending for I think 10 straight days. So I'm just, we don't call it a bender in the industry. We call it a blender. It's been an epic blender. And I'm all on fumes right now. So I'm excited. It's literally going to be like, hang up, crash.
Yeah. Go drink some water.
Seriously.
All right, brother. Thanks for everything, man. All right. Good luck, buddy. Cheers. Bye. Hey, what's up, buddy? How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, man. I love that guy. That was a great stream.
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I popped on probably the last 20 minutes or so. I was
Ed on here too. Look up there. Ed, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, guys?
How are you, man?
I'm doing all right.
Sorry, guys. I was trying to keep. I think I kept up with chat as good as I could, but I didn't. I wanted to let him talk and tell his story and everything. So, So I sent Ed batch 5, the 8-year, which is not 8-year. It's actually got 21-year whiskey in it as well. And then I think I sent Ben the 17. You guys have that?
Yeah, I'll pour it right now.
I've been messing around, sniffing it, tasting it, sniffing it.
Man, it's good stuff. I love it. and hopefully we can do a pick of it for, because this man, I wish I had enough to send you guys. I'm gonna try to get the sherry pick that Benny's did, because it's fantastic. I think you guys would love it. It might be my favorite of the three, but he sent me bottles, but of the sherry cask he only sent me a sample, so I didn't have a lot of it.
What was the other? I jumped on later, but what were the other two he sent you, Lance? The 8.
So the 8 is actually it's 8-year wheat, and then the corn, which is 73% of the blend, which is what you have, Ed. 73% of that is 21-year corn whiskey.
Jeez.
and then Ben's is it was several barrels, but it was 17 to 26 year. Yeah, and I think he even said there's like some older rye in there, man. I thought he said like 16-year rye blended in or something.
Really?
I can't remember all the but as far as Canadian whiskey goes, man, holy cow, that stuff's delicious.
Yeah, this is jalapeno cornbread. That's literally what it smells like to me. Like spicy jalapeno cornbread.
Let's see.
Yum. Sign me up.
So what you guys been up to, man?
Nothing too crazy. Yeah, nothing too crazy.
Life good.
Yeah, I started. So I took probably a little over a year, like year and a half off of working out. Like I used to work out constantly, consistently. Like I was in the habit of it, and then I got COVID, and that just kind of derailed stuff for me. And so anyway, all that to say, it was really tough, like getting back into the habit of working out again. So I've been consistent for the last 2 weeks. The thing that's tough about it is that I don't have to work out in the morning, but just because I want to be able to like spend time with my kids before they go to bed and stuff like that, like has to be in the morning. Well, we take our daughter to school at 7, or my wife does. We trade off. So I'm getting up at like 4:50 to go to the gym so that I can get back by the time that she's leaving, because usually our son stays home still. He's not going to school yet. So it's like, anyway, so I'm adjusting to that schedule, and that's been rough, but we're getting through it.
Yeah, it sounds like it, but I'm glad you're working out again, man. That's good.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like I guess as I've gotten older, again, I'm not old, but as I've been getting older, I've noticed like the things in life that kind of suck sometimes are the things that are really, they suck in the moment sometimes, but then afterwards you feel so much better. It's like waking up that early, it's not fun, but once you get in the habit of doing it, and once you're at the gym, you're like, this is actually like, I feel good. And like, I feel better throughout the day than I do if I would have slept until 7. So it's like things like that. And just
Slept
working
until
out
7. What's that like, man? I haven't done that in ages.
every once in a while I'll do it. It's but having young kids too, it's like they don't let you sleep in. They're up at like 6:30. So, but yeah.
How's life for you, Ed? When's the big wedding?
We're well, sometime in 24. We're not sure, because 23 is a whirlwind of shit, man.
That's how my life is this year. It's
so
a shit
much
show.
stuff going on in 23. It's just crazy. Like in a month from tomorrow, my daughter turns 16. So we're going out to California for that. We're going to be out there. And then Jack graduates from high school. Then he turns 18. Then my son turns 21 in August. So it's like, I got way too much going on. We're good for right now. So it'll be sometime in 24.
All right.
Yeah.
I got a little bit to look for a special bottle for you then, huh?
Nice. I appreciate that. When Ben's saying about adjusting to that early schedule, man, forever early riser, 6:30, no problem. Up, gone. At work, sometimes at work it's 6. But
that's
now
late.
That's
late.
Dude, you can't do any construction work in the dark.
That's true. People want to start working out at 5 a.m. They're lunatics. I
Right.
gotta be at the gym that early. It's
I know
insane.
you're up at 3:30 or something
Yeah.
crazy.
4:30, sometimes 5. It depends on the day.
But now this working from home thing, ooh,
It gets you. Yeah, it gets
dude,
you.
your schedule goes like you're 6, 7, 8, 8:30. No calls till 10. I'll get up when I want to get up, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so so that's that's what's been going on, man.
So you sent us a picture. You did it. What was the tasting you did tonight? Did you already do it? You did it, right?
Oh no, I did a sample pour. I'm sending them to a really good friend of mine in Montana.
I thought you were tasting those. I was like, man, you're gonna be lit by the time we
God,
get you on here.
Torched. Oh my God. No, he's kind of a lower shelf drinker. He's been drinking like 1783 type stuff.
Yeah.
But he's been a bourbon guy for a while, but usually on the lower end. So I'm like, all right, John, I'm going to send you the whole gamut, man. I'm going to go from basically tater bottle Blanton's all the way up to 137 proof single barrel Elijah Craig. So it's going to be fun. We're going to do that next Friday, I think.
Oh, fun.
Sending that off to him. So that'll be fun.
Nice. We're headed down to Kentucky next Wednesday.
Where are you guys going?
That's for Barrels of Hope pick. That's the Elijah
Craig pick. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Dusty Dan's flying in, and we're gonna go to we're doing Bardstown at lunch, and then one of the guys he's bringing has never been on a thieving tour, so we're gonna do that thieving tour.
Oh,
that we did.
That was fun. Yeah.
So
yeah,
he can guess a weed or two. That's
yeah, so he can bust his balls. And my uncle's coming on that too, so that'll be fun. And then and then I think we're gonna eat dinner at Willett that night, which I've never eaten there, so that'll be cool. And then the next day we have a barrel pick, and I think Bernie Lovers is coming, and then we're gonna do lunch at Bardstown again. So and then head home. So it should be
get a pour of Booker's Rye while you're there for me, will you?
If I do, I'll be sending you a picture.
Oh, I know you will with the tears.
That's funny.
God. Hey, when is the have you nailed down the Hard Truth one yet?
I emailed her today to ask her to verify, and I don't think she emailed me back. Let me look real quick. Yeah, she didn't respond yet. So no, I haven't nailed down the date yet.
Let me know when it is, and maybe I'll just drive down for the day and hang out.
Yeah, you should for sure, man.
Yeah, because
And
that way I can get some of that ridiculous caramel malt.
The chocolate one. That's where it's at. I was finishing that one before I jumped on here, and it's so good.
Yeah, people have been messaging me like crazy, like from the last live stream, and a lot of people found it and are going nuts over it. So
when I was doing my pouring all my samples, I looked back and I'm like, ooh, there's a little bit of that caramel one left, and I poured it, and I'm like, oh,
it's so good, man.
It's yeah. They're doing some amazing shit.
Yeah.
But this Found North deal, they're out of California.
I think so. No, I don't know that they're out of California. The brothers are at least from the East Coast.
Okay.
Because I think for some reason I remember they're New England Patriots fans or something, or one of them is. Yeah, I know.
There you go.
Vince should love them.
Yeah, there you go.
But I said this in the beginning of the live stream. The thing that was really cool about them is like I've had several distilleries like reach out to me, and it's kind of like your blanket kind of email. Hey, will you review this? Whatever. And he actually had watched specific episodes and asked me how my wife was doing. And I thought that was pretty cool because I've mentioned that on the channel, but I just thought that was cool that he added that personal touch to it. And obviously, they're doing a little bit extra.
Right on.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell he's a smart guy. I was only on for a short period of time, but when he was just hearing some of the different things he was talking about with how whiskey interacts with the barrel and stuff like that, it's stuff that even even when you talk to like some master distillers, they're not getting into that level of detail.
Yeah.
I'm sure they know the information, but it's like you could tell like he was definitely nerding out in a good way. We're all nerds, obviously, with whiskey, so you can tell.
Yeah, when he started like acting like he wasn't sure how geeky he should get, I was like, go for it, man. Nerd out all you want.
Yeah, it's like we're all here. We're not.
When he's talking, he reminds me of Christian from Starlight.
I could see that.
The way they really get into the basically the chemistry of it.
Yeah, and he's as passionate about it as Christian is. It sounds that
was from what little I heard. I'm like, they're kind of on the same wavelength as like the guys from the dudes from Starlight. So
yeah, it sounds like they've got a lot of older barrels and lots of stock, and I just like, I like their entrepreneurial spirit. We were talking about that too, and how he said they had started a startup earlier, got their teeth kicked in. And I love people that are just like, I'm going to start this thing, and if I fall on my face, fine. If I don't, great. And he obviously did once, and then started this other thing, and it's done great. And I just love people that just, they're okay to fail. They don't care at all. They're like, yep. Whatever. I'm going to do what I love, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah.
But he seems like he's got a real passion for whiskey, which is cool.
Yeah.
So, oh man. So
I poured the remaining half of the Parker's Heritage that you sent me, Lance.
Oh man,
that stuff is dark.
So
speaking of this, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, speaking of distilleries that sent me stuff, 13 Colonies sent me. They sent me this, which is a rye. I think it's their rye. They also sent me a bourbon, and then they also sent me their double oaked, which everybody's been going crazy over.
Is that the yellow labeled bottle?
So the yellow label, I don't know what the double oaked is, what color the label is, but I think it's like 130 proof or something, and some people named it their whiskey of the year, so I'm excited to try it.
I've seen a couple reviews of 13 Colonies, and I can't remember which one it was, but people were raving over it.
I know, and it's Georgia, and with
BFE Georgia, man.
Yeah, and I'm afraid to taste it, to be honest with you, live, but everybody's giving it great reviews, man. So
I've actually got a bottle of it that I haven't opened. So.
Oh, really? Do you have the regular bourbon, or?
I think I've got the rye, but then I also have another bottle that I think it might be the bourbon. I'm not positive on that.
Is it on the shelves down there, Ben?
Yeah, I can go grab it.
Really? You want to grab it and open it?
Yeah.
I can try it tonight with the. Hang on, I'm gonna mute myself real quick. Sorry about that. I haven't Renee get me a Glen. So hang on just a second, Ed.
All right.
Okay. And then can you grab me that sample bottle right over there? No. Oh yeah, that's true. Should be able to read my mind. She said, "Can you grab me that sample bottle?" She goes, "There's 1,000 of them over there." The one that wrapped in, that right there. She's supposed to be able to read my mind by now. What the hell? All right, so this one. What is this?
The bottles kind of mimic the birthday bourbon bottles, don't they?
Yeah, they're cool. I like the bottles. Okay, this is their bourbon. And then this one is I thought it was like rye finished in. Why am I having such a problem figuring out what the hell this is? It's rye, but I thought it was aged in something else. Maybe it's just their rye. I don't know. Let's see. I'll wait to see what Ed's bringing back before I I mean,
All right.
depends. Which one you got?
Yeah, so it's
You got the rye.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the rye. All right, I'll open that.
I've got another one too. I'll have to go find that one. I don't remember which one it is. If it's like the bourbon, I don't think it's the double oaked. So
I think that one was the one everybody was going kind of crazy over.
yeah, I'd heard good things about the rye too. It's funny.
What did we taste last week that we hated?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that old 55.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It's the Scotch tape. That's what it was.
That stuff was bad.
Yeah. The nose was awful and the palate was fair, but the nose was so bad. So bad.
Enough of the nose transferred to the palate, unfortunately.
This almost has a little
magic
like a little like if I was smelling this blind, I think my first thought would be, is this a Texas whiskey?
It's very it's not, so it's, to me it's not quite like a Texas funk. It's like it's almost like a mix between like yeast, like something very yeasty, and like sourdough. Like
yeah, sourdough is a good note.
Yeah.
It tastes good. I don't mind it. I don't mind the taste at all. I just wasn't sure about the nose. It's a little drying. It's pretty drying on the palate. I wonder how long this is aged. Kind of zaps my palate.
So that's not great.
It's I don't know that I've ever had a rye ages so good that I am getting some like youthful notes on it for sure.
Yeah, that's weird.
And when you think of like Hard Truth aging their shit in 2 years, it's like, how?
Yeah, I mean, Hard Truth beats the brakes off of this stuff. But that's the thing though, is that I mean,
it's not off-putting. It's just not.
It's also like, for me, whenever I'm drinking, like, if I start going down in proof or like way down in age, because like I was drinking that Found North stuff, which is rye that's been, aged super long. So it's like, that is another thing that makes it kind of unfair. But yeah. That was there wasn't a lot that I would say was.
Yeah, right, exactly. Engineer teacher. Ed, he can't be cool.
Why? So I can hear myself echo in my ears. Yeah. By the way,
it actually does help me because I can hear your levels. So
that's good. Old 55 still smells like Scotch tape.
You poured more of that?
Yeah, I just wanted to see if maybe it was that. I don't know.
Gotta go down memory lane again.
Yeah, you like kicking yourself in the nuts or what?
I ain't drinking it. I just wanted to smell it again. It smells like shit. So
yeah, that's up there. That's one of the worst. That's one of the worst that I've ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not good.
I moved on to the bourbon, and I don't know that I have high hopes.
I don't even think it's worth me going and trying to find it. I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it where it's at.
I think I like the nose on the bourbon better.
Really? Oh, I might go find it. If you like it, then.
Well, hold on. Don't
wait.
Say that.
He hasn't tasted it yet.
I know. I'm waiting.
I can't help myself when
it's not. I'm trying to think what it's better than a lot of other newer craft distilleries out there. Hold on, I don't know yet.
That's the thing that's so tough. So I just finished the rest of the Found North 17.
Ben, you got to try this. I want you to try this.
You want me to try it?
Yeah, it's really sweet. It's Yeah, I do like it. I think I do like it. I think I like this better than the rye, which I was sure I was going to like the rye better.
All right, I'll go find it. Be right back.
Ben and I have drastically different palates, though, so he's probably going to say
You
it.
think? God, I mean, my Lord, he won't even pour makers in a glass. I mean, Jesus.
He really won't.
No, and I hope, please, for the love of everything good, I wish he was going on the maker's pick. I just wish.
I know.
That would have
I
been
know.
fabulous.
Yeah, because since he hates it so much.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
wonder if it changes view of makers if he went on the maker's pick. There's no cooler pick to go on.
Yeah,
Well,
even just the
I can
the
hear y'all
distillery.
because I have headphones, so
So
I
he
heard
got
all
those
that.
headphones.
We love you, Ben. You know we do.
No, I know.
Yes,
I
it
I
is
don't
better
don't
than
hate
Perry's
makers.
special batch for sure. I mean,
I
what
don't.
do these cost? Do you know what these cost?
They're kind of expensive, if I
Are
remember
they?
right. Let me see. I mean, yeah, I guess it's expensive is relative now. Let me see. Let me pull it up.
80, 70.
Oh my God. I mean, if I paid $30 for this, I wouldn't be mad at it, but
It's definitely not $30. You know that. You know it's not.
I know.
Let's see. So I don't hate makers. It's just it's
Yeah, you do.
very hit or
I'll be right
miss.
back. Oh no, wait, I don't need to go. Sorry, go ahead. It's been very hit or miss.
It's really hit or miss for me. It's like I don't know what okay, I think it's around like $50 for these. So that's not horrible, but I mean it's
Okay.
definitely not it's fine. I thought it was a little more expensive, but yeah, I don't know. Makers is just hit or miss. If some of their stuff is really good, some of their stuff I really enjoy, like the cast strength stuff, but then like especially the picks. The picks can be just awful. Like they could be like basically drain pours. I don't know. It kind of comes off like almost very. It's like when you're eating cauliflower, like you can tell this was not grown in the ground. Like this was made in a lab. Like you're.
Okay, I got you.
That's
I
how
wasn't sure
feel.
where you were going with that, but I got you.
It's just you can tell when you're
I know what
drinking
you
it. You're
mean.
like, this is This is like they microwaved this bourbon. They microwaved it. They did not. This was not naturally
funny.
aged.
I think Ed, you would like this. It's like thin, kind of watery, peanutty. It's got some nuttiness to it.
I don't know how big of a fan I am if it's watery.
Well, it's not watery.
Just
It's got nuttiness, but then it's like overly sweet. But
like
it doesn't
powdered sugar, white sugar, sweet.
I don't know. It's bizarre because it's really sweet and then it instantly dries your palate out like the rye did. It makes me wonder like how like in Texas, that Texas whiskey does that to me because it's aged so fast in such extreme temperatures. I'm sure Georgia's close to the same.
Just higher humidity.
Yeah, just higher humidity. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see what Ben thinks of it.
It does have like a weird useful note. Like it's not
not like what you normally get, but
it's like for some reason like you know that spearmint gum the like it's not like a spearmint note, but it is something more like minty. Like that's the youthfulness that I'm getting in a weird way. Like it's not obviously it's not a rye, but it's like a weird herbally, like maybe herbal is the right word.
Yeah, herbal might be the right word. Do you like this better than the rye?
I think so. Let me see.
I think so too. Man, it dries my palate out though. Like the back end of it, it seems really sweet, and then all of a sudden you're just like feel like scraping your tongue. It just dries.
It did kind of zap your palate. The nose is getting better on the rye.
Oh yeah. All right. I'm gonna try. This was some people's whiskey of the year. This is their double oaked bourbon. That's 135 proof.
Yeah, the rye's not great.
Yeah, and I thought for sure I was gonna like that more.
Yeah.
Boy, this
Not
thing
great.
is motor oil. I don't know if you can look how.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
That almost, wow.
It almost like once it's that dark, it starts almost looking like velvet, like a velvety color.
Ooh, smells good. Let's see. 13 colonies is great stuff. The double oaked is amazing. All right. Well, 13 colonies is, but I'll try the double oaked here and see if you're right on the amazing.
That's the thing about a lot of these distilleries. I was gonna say this earlier. Like a lot of these like craft distilleries, it's like it's such a crowded marketplace already. You can't like I get, again, 13 colonies, it's like $50. That's not bad, but it's like it's not worth $50. Like for us with what we have and what we know we can get for $50. And so it's like we can't support every small distillery that puts out stuff. And so it's like it's just
Yeah.
I'm in full agreement with you there, Ben. I mean, it just after tasting amazing 2-year rye from Hard Truth, and I know it's $75, but I'll tell you what, it's worth every freaking penny of $75.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, it's like I would love it. I would love it if it was closer to $50, but it's like at 75, it beats the brakes off of this stuff, and it's like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna put
Right.
my money into that. And it's like you can't go and put your money into all these small distilleries, and so it's just like for 13
hard.
colonies, it's like they're putting out this stuff, and it's like they also I feel like they know what they're going up against, and it's just like at this point there's just so much stuff out there. It's like to be another small distillery, it just doesn't, especially when it's stuff like this, it doesn't excite me.
No, and when what 90% of the small distilleries are sourcing MGP or Barton, they're just sourcing whiskey. So if the market's flooded now with 4 or 5 year MGP everywhere.
You go into a Total Wine or like one of the big retailers and you see like 90% of the stuff is under 4 years or it's not age stated, but it's like north of $60. It's like you have your staples that are on the bottom shelf, but it's like flooded with just all this stuff that they're pushing. And most of the people that are buying it are people that really just don't know much about bourbon or whiskey. And it's just, it's a weird time right now in bourbon.
That's the first thing I told Nick with Found North. I said, first of all, thank you for not buying 4 and 5 year MGP. It's like enough. It's enough already.
I mean, and that's another reason you got to kind of tip your hat to Brian over there at Hard Truth is like he's not sourcing it. He's not sourcing anything. He's got all his own stuff.
Well, that 14-year Schoonover is.
Oh well, that was Dickel. Yeah.
But
that was
for the most part, it's their own stuff. Yeah.
Cool deal. So
that is something that I feel like I can get behind because it is unique. Like same thing with Starlight. Like they're doing these different finishes. They're like, you just have to be doing something different. Like to try to go, hey, I'm gonna put out a bourbon that's it's 2 years old. This is our stuff. It's like unless it's unique or has something different about it, it's like you can't be charging 60, 70, 80, $100 and think that you're going to be successful. It's just
right. There's 4 places around Indianapolis here that have just opened up within the last year and a half, and it's not good. It's just not good.
I tell you guys, the double oaked is actually really good.
Is it?
It's pretty good, except again, it instantly like sucks all the moisture out. I mean, it's so drying on the palate. The first sip I had of it was a little weird, but this would be a really interesting bottle to put in a blind with some really good stuff. I bet. I don't know. I'm gonna have.
Is it Lance? Is it drying like Elijah Craig 18?
No, I don't. No, I don't think so. Okay. It's got an it's really dense. It's really dense, and it doesn't. It says double oaked, but it doesn't taste double oaked like Nulu tastes double oaked, or like some of the Penelope stuff tastes double oaked. They did a really good job with the double oaking process on it. It doesn't I don't know if you had this blind you would know it was double oaked. It's like, man, I don't know. Let me take another sip before I say what I'm thinking. That may sound a little crazy. I bet people would mistake that and think that was a really expensive bottle. I don't know what those go for. I have no idea.
So I'm also like, I feel like I'm supersetting whiskeys right now, but I went and I poured, let's see, what is it? Number 6. So from your advent calendar, I still have some of those samples because I always pour half. And I went and poured day 6. So I was actually like, I've been drinking, like sipping on it here and there, and it kind of smells like peach rings. And I went back and I was like, what the heck was this? Because it's also had a lot of time to like sit in the sample, the little sample thing. It was the Old Forester 1915.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
get like peach rings. It's really good, but it's like very like it. That's what pops into my head is peach rings. And so I went back. I had to go back and look because I was like, what the heck is this? But yeah, it's funny how whiskey like changes, especially in those little sample containers.
Yeah.
Like that.
I gotta go try that too, because I remember blind. I didn't know what it was and I didn't like it. And I, I've sent you guys a text and been like, this shit's great. But then
it's had time to macerate too. I
Yeah.
mean,
yeah, I gotta go back and try that one. I have it.
That's
back there.
my decanter bourbon.
Is it? Yeah, that's a good one. Kevin said excited about the FH rye import. I think it was supposed to be FN. Maybe a Barrels for Hope option in late 2023 or 2024. Yeah, I hope so. I hope we can make that work, man. I would love to do a pick for Barrels for Hope.
Port always gets me excited. Like I love the fruitiness that it can bring. But yeah, I think I said it last stream too. It's like I want to try the haystack, or what is it? It's it's 14-year MGP that's finished in port. I want something that's higher age finished in port, because a lot of the port stuff is just always younger, and I want to try something that's higher age. But
yeah, if we make price the biggest point, Bardstown Origin all day long. Right? Bardstown Origin stuff is good, man. Really good.
I can't wait to find some of that. I'm excited to try that stuff.
That would be a good decanter bourbon. I think I said that in the review of it.
That was their like $50
work on
stuff,
it, Kevin.
right?
Yep. Yep. Nulu double oaked is young raw wood. 13 Colony double oaked is old oak, more like 1910. Yeah, for sure. I could definitely see that. It's interesting. Man, it has. So what I was thinking, and I didn't want to say it until I just had it again. It has it's gonna sound crazy. It has a lot of characteristics of. It's gonna sound so ridiculous. It has a lot of characteristics to George T. Stagg.
How strongly do you want to stand behind that?
I don't know. If I had any more, I would taste it side by side.
That's
I
funny. That's interesting. Yeah,
I said what I said.
Yeah, you said it.
It's great. It's this stuff is growing on me. It's really good, man. Which is really surprising. Like, how can they make this so good and their other stuff just okay? But I can see why people rated this their bourbon of the year. I would love to. I don't know. At some point, I'm going to put this in a blind for you guys. I'm going to save what I've got and put this in a blind for you guys and see what you think.
I'm interested. Yeah, I'm interested to try it and see. Hey, you gave it a pretty glowing endorsement. So.
No joke.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
I'm gonna go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's just crazy. It's good, man. It's really good.
I'm gonna pour some of that J. Rieger private stock that you liked, Ben.
That
I need to
was good.
I need to figure out. The only thing I don't like about this is how fast it dries out my palate. I mean, I need a glass of water. Man, is it? But it's 135.3 proof.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna ask what the proof is, because I feel like that's like with Woodford Double Oak, it doesn't dry out your palate because it's whatever 90.4 proof or something like that. And so yeah, higher proof stuff like that just it's too much.
So Tim has the haystack. Yeah, I've never seen it, but I don't hunt whiskey very much anymore.
You don't have to. It's dropped off at your fucking doorstep.
Yeah, you just DoorDash it.
Yeah, he gets DoorDash. He gets a text and then turns around. We're midway where he's going. I'll be right there.
I know you got a real nice setup. You're in a smaller town. You're in a smaller town. You've got your connections. You work at a gym, so you can have those. Hey, I'll be right back. Let me go on my lunch break.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. I'm surprised I like that much.
Yeah, that's
double oak stuff. It's like again, it's like when you start doing some of those unique finishings like that, some of them can be fantastic, some of them can be horrible, and you can ruin really good whiskey. But yeah, I think that's also too why a lot of finished stuff tends to be younger, because it's like you don't want to ruin older stuff that you just had to pay all this money for. And
you know how I've been getting that like Sharpie note on some double oak stuff lately.
Mm-hmm.
My first sip, I got it, and then and it's I don't get it anymore. So at first I was like, oh, I don't know, and then now I'm starting to really like it, man. It's good.
Did you pour that? Did you pour the Power Bourbon Double Oak Rye pick yet that I sent you?
Let me grab it.
Oh, he sent you that?
Yeah,
dude, that's freaking good.
That shit is fire. That's so good. God, that's good.
Yeah, I'll pour some of that with you, and then I probably should get going after that. But let me grab that bottle. It's a good bottle to pour.
You become like a mad scientist with all these different sample bottles.
I counted up the sample bottles that I have not opened from people the other day. I had 32 freaking unopened sample bottles, and I have no idea what they are.
Yeah,
that's also
dude, it's
fun.
impossible to keep track. And when I move here in a couple months, it's going to be really hard to keep track.
Yeah.
So this is the let me see if I can on camera. Ed brought this over. This Power Bourbon. If you guys aren't subscribed to them, go subscribe to them. We're all one big happy family, and Power Bourbon does great stuff. So they did this pick, and I mean, I don't want to sway. You can't sway Ben. If he hates it, he'll tell you he hates it. But this is good stuff.
I have to let stuff sit for a few minutes. I hate like drinking stuff right after I pour it. I just can't do it. I know you.
You're high maintenance. It checks out.
I know. I guess so. I mean,
look at his hair, Lance.
Yeah.
My hair. I just always like it. Always feels better after 5 minutes, whatever it is. Like the nose is better. And
I didn't even put together that engineer teacher was.
Is that TJ?
That's TJ. I had no idea.
Yeah. Oh God, that's fabulous.
See what a good guy I am, TJ. I didn't even know you're in here, and I'm plugging your channel.
That's hilarious.
What it's all about.
That's right.
LOL. Yep. The way you responded back.
That's young.
I freaking love this pick. Oh my God, it's so good.
Oh
Jesus, it's good.
God, that gets, man.
I mean, it's so funny. Like when you find a bottle like that, everybody's chasing all these crazy allocated ryes.
Right.
And you find a bottle like that and you're like, damn, so good. The tobacco notes on it are what, for my palate, or what sell me on it. It's so freaking good, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, TJ poured some with us.
I get like I'm getting like very like raisin, like very like dark dried fruit.
Oh, raisins, yeah, raisin for sure. I like the palate better than the nose on this.
The nose like does this for me. Like sometimes
Yeah.
it'll be really good. Like when I first poured it, it was those.
It has that. The nose has a very sweet and sour to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was actually just about to say. I was getting a lot of sour, like fig. Fig was another thing that kind of popped up.
Yeah, but the sour is pretty powerful on the nose, and you wouldn't think it is what it is on the palate. The palate's so good though.
Yeah, that's man, that's some good stuff.
I would think I don't. You guys know I don't smoke cigars, but if I did, I would think that would be a perfect with a cigar.
Kind of, I'm on the same wavelength there.
Ben's contemplating. He's thinking.
I am
assessing.
It's yeah, like that leather like hits you right up front, but it's not like there's like different for me. There's like different classifications of leather. There's like,
okay,
you think of like a leather jacket, or you think of like a leather like sofa, like like more. It's like a lighter leather. For me, like that's what. It's still really good. Like, don't get me wrong, it's still really good, but it hits you up front, which is interesting because normally for leather, when I get leather notes, I normally get it like on the back end.
I get yep.
It's like that to me. It's like that sweet cigar smell you get when you walk into a cigar shop. But it is like right on the front of the palate, like instantly. That's what you're hit with, and then you kind of try to have to like wade your way through and get the rest of the notes. It's strong up front, but I love that.
I feel like everybody's like olfactory system is different on like how they interpret things. Like for me, once I take a sip, and then I'm like going back, it's like and I know other people like this too, but I get so much more from the nose. So like now when I'm going back, I get that like kind of sour tobacco on the nose now, where I didn't get that before. And I kind of get that leather a little bit too. So the nose has gotten so much better, even just after taking one sip.
Yeah. You do a pick of Starlight, man. You better eat good. You're gonna taste through some barrels.
And TJ, it was 95 degrees in the Rick house. It was so hot that day. Oh my God. Yeah.
I would hate to be in a Rick house when it's super hot like that. Like drinking bourbon when it's hot. That feels like the worst.
Sign me up. I'm fine with it.
I would like. I
go to a Rick house anytime.
It would make you I feel like it would like induce nausea. Like being in a Rick house when it's super hot, like you've got all the smells going on, which are great, but like at that temperature, like
everything. Well, I mean, it's 98 degrees or 95 degrees, and the bourbon is like 80 degrees, 85, 82 degrees. So it hits your mouth. It's like sucking on a match. It's just fire in your mouth. It's just hot. And so it's almost like you're drinking 140 proof bourbon and it's like 103 or 105, type stuff. But
I got to see what the weather's supposed to be like in Louisville when we pick our.
Dude, did you guys get blasted today? Rain?
Oh, dude, it was nuts. We got rain, hail, freezing sleet, snow, like crazy winds. It was nuts.
The weather here was actually perfect. We had gotten rain the last 2 days, but today
Mhm.
was perfect. It was like upper 60s, sunny. Yeah, it was perfect. But
That's money.
it's been weird weather. So I grew up in Arizona, so all my family's in Arizona, and they got, I think it was either yesterday or 2 days ago, they got like 6 inches of snow. Um,
Where at?
and so Tucson, which is like
Mhm.
2.5 hours south of Phoenix.
That's
Serious.
crazy.
Yeah, and we
Wow.
here in Texas, we had like this past week, it's been in the 80s, like the mid 80s. And it's so weird how the weather works because normally Phoenix would be hotter than it would
Right.
be here in Austin. But it's crazy. They're sending me pictures of snow, and I'm like, that's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a client who went to must have been close to there to vacation. They took their RV. She's like, this is some bullshit.
Yeah, you don't normally this is the best time of year. You're like, mid 60s, maybe 70s. It's like it's the best time of year normally, but yeah, getting snow like that is insane and
I
that
Yeah.
much.
I was seeing some pictures of spring training, and people are in the stands in winter jackets in Glendale, Arizona, like big puffy winter jackets.
Yeah.
And players are gloved up, and they got freaking stocking caps on their heads. I'm like, where the hell are you? It's like they're in
Yeah.
Glendale.
I'm with Tim. Nope. Whiskey all year, all seasons. Yep. Doesn't matter to
That's
Tim.
that one's a tough one. All seasons, like that's I don't know. When it starts getting real hot out like that, it's like that's when it's old fashioned. Like I'll do an old fashioned or something like that. But yeah, for me, like when it's real hot, I don't know. It's different.
Tim said, you'll get there.
Yeah,
He's young,
hopefully.
Tim.
Hopefully.
I haven't had the Bardstown apple brandy finish.
I mean, that one came out like a few years ago and it was super sought after because it was apparently phenomenal. I never had it, but some of that like older again, some of the first releases from Bardstown were just such hitters because they had
Yeah.
that like older MGP and
Someone brought that Disco 2. I think it was TJ brought Discovery 2 to Whiskey Mash.
okay.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I
God, it was
Disco
good.
2?
Yeah,
Oh wow.
it
it
was
was
a
good. You wouldn't
green.
know you were at a Brandy Carlisle concert.
Right.
The venue did look awesome. You sent us
Dude,
pictures of that.
I'll take Red Rocks 1,000 times.
Fuck off, Ed. Fuck off, Ed.
Fuck off it.
Fuck off, Ed.
That's awesome.
Right when he was
I
about
never,
to say
I
it.
never get tired of that. That's fabulous.
Go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry.
No, that's fabulous. I love it. But I'll take Red Rocks 1,000 times over Effingham, Illinois. Sorry.
I'm so glad I clipped that out and I have it for in perpetuity.
That's the best.
Play it whenever I want.
Mhm. And then when he drops the Booker's Tears, that's his second favorite.
The weather,
Yep.
the
Never
weather
gets
was
old.
awesome that when we were there. The weather was so nice.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Oh man,
Hey,
too funny.
what can I say?
Oh well, boys, I'm gonna have to get off here. I got an
Oh,
archery tournament to go to all day tomorrow and all kinds of fun stuff. So
Well, Lion, I play Saturday or Sunday?
Purdue Sunday.
Ooh, where?
Hey,
Yeah.
that game, what was it? Yesterday? I watched the
Michigan?
highlights. Yeah.
Dude, we were freaking out. Double overtime, nuts. They needed that.
Did they win?
Yeah, they won. Yeah. They were like, I think up by 7 and then blew the lead and then went into overtime. They were down by 7 with 1:40 to go and came back and tied it and then went into double overtime and they finally ended up.
Center for Michigan is
Oh.
huge.
He's got
That
another
was-
year too. He's probably coming back next year.
It was crazy. Like he doesn't look like
Yeah, Dickinson's got another
Yeah.
year.
he doesn't look like someone that would do well in the NBA just because he's so like he again, it's like you can have great college players that do well because again, you're playing against teams that if they're lucky, they'll have one person go to the NBA. But it's like, yeah, with that guy, he had decent footwork though. Like he actually did have
he can hit threes too. He's got range.
He's a pretty good player. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Crazy. But
Yeah,
that was a crazy game.
Yeah, it was
overtime.
Yeah,
I have a real tough time giving any compliments at all to anything from frickin' University of Michigan. I hate.
Oh yeah, I hate it. I hate Juwan Howard. I
can't believe he's still coaching there. Like
Right?
after what happened, it's just. I mean, yeah.
Oh, the fans were ruthless. Oh, Ed, you'll love this. So last night, Dickinson missed 2 free throws, and everyone went nuts because they got free nuggets.
Nuggets.
You've never seen any crowd go as crazy for nuggets. Chicken nuggets is
Ben. It's ridiculous. It's literally ridiculous. When I went with Lance on play Wisconsin, guy clangs the first free throw. I mean, it's like a 2.8 earthquake, and it just keeps growing.
Ed's like, what the fuck's going on? I was like, free nuggets.
I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, dude, if somebody misses 2 free throws in a row, everybody in the crowd shows your ticket, you get free nuggets. He's like,
that's hilarious.
So when they played IU and we watched it on TV, the announcers were saying that they're more excited over chicken nuggets than they are about winning the game. Literally, they want
absolutely
freaking nuggets. It's insane.
My daughter sent me the best text, and it's like it's a text that like only Illinois fans would get because she was at the game, and she said, what'd she say? She said, oh, I gotta find her text. It was classic. Oh, I'm not gonna be able to find it.
The Power Bourbon Rye I just finished. I took my last sip, and I got like a coffee note. I got like a coffee note on the back end. It's good.
I get a little bit of that, and I have like I get a lot of chocolate mint on this pick. But it's if you took an actual mint leaf and dipped it in dark chocolate, that's what I get. It's not like that.
Yeah.
Fake mint. It's like I love it. And then the tobacco, it's good stuff.
I get a lot of like sweet and sour, which reminds me of tobacco because tobacco, you get a lot of like sweet and sour. I don't smoke a ton of cigars or anything like that, but I do on occasion, and you definitely get that kind of that sweet and sour contrast.
Mm-hmm. Man, I can't find her text, but it was funny. It was something about Dickinson, and like nothing felt as good as Dickinson giving the whole crowd free chicken nuggets or something like that. It's hysterical.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. I'm like, what the fuck? What nuggets? What do you mean? He's like, dude, we get free chicken nuggets. I'm like, this is hilarious.
This team though, man, is something else. Matthew Meyer came out the other day, and he's like in his post game, they're like, how's practice been going? He's like, I don't know, I haven't been to practice. He goes, I had caffeine poisoning. And they're like, what? And he's like, yeah, I drank 6 Monsters playing video games, and I've been out with caffeine poisoning.
Oh my god.
So that's weird.
They asked Brad, the coach, they're like, what'd you do when you found out about his caffeine poisoning? He goes, he just told me he was sick. He goes, I didn't know he had caffeine poisoning until you guys interviewed him. So he comes out.
So did Underwood, did his head start to rumble?
Oh, he's like, what? They were like, what do you think about it? And he goes, he's an interesting guy. He doesn't know what the fuck to do with him. And
there's not much you can do.
So everybody in the crowd at the Michigan game had Matthew Meyer with holding Monster drinks on the t-shirts.
Really?
Funny.
And yeah, and he went and did the post-game press conference with 2 and he's chugging Monsters as he's doing the press conference. Like, somebody get a hold of this idiot.
Energy drinks are horrible for you.
They're
so bad.
Yes.
If he had 6, that's like 1,200 milligrams of caffeine at least,
and about 2,600 milligrams of sugar.
Yeah, it's absolutely
so
crazy.
Bad for your heart.
God.
I like because when I was younger, it was like I definitely drank a few here and there, but I never got crazy. But yeah, you see some people, same thing with like pre-workout. Like a lot of people taking pre-workout scoops, just You know, it's
Oh
thanks,
yeah,
man.
Tim, exactly. In the post game, he said Monster hit me up. I I added you on Instagram or something, and apparently they responded to him. So I'm sure he's gonna get NIL money from it.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Good for him.
drank a Red Bull right when they first hit the market because I was working for a distributorship. So this is freaking 26 years ago. Drank that Red Bull.
It's a
I
long
was
time ago.
seriously worried that I was gonna have to go to the hospital.
Yeah. Yep,
Oh
it is
my
Tim Boss move. If you've never seen the interviews with Matt Meyer, you got to go watch this kid. He had a mullet when he was at Baylor, and then he cut it because he thought he was going to go pro, and he didn't do so great in the combine. So then he transferred here, and so he started growing his mullet back. And they asked him in the last conference what took so long, and he said, he's like, yeah, I just my coupon for Great Clips wasn't ready yet. And I don't think he was trying to be funny. He was seriously waiting till his Great Clips coupon was coming. He could use it. He's an absolute idiot, but he's fantastic.
That guy can when he's dialed in,
Oh, he's so good, man.
basically step over half court. Poof.
Yeah, he's so
Launch.
good.
Yeah,
So
he's
he was
fine.
good in that Michigan game. Oh, anyway. All right, guys. I need to run. It was great
dude.
talking to you, man. Thanks for jumping on at the late hour.
Absolutely.
All right.
Love
We'll set another one of these up. We'll have to do a blind or something coming up here.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we will.
All right,
All right,
guys.
guys.
Love you, man.
care.
Have a good
Yeah.
weekend.
See ya.
Hey, love
Later,
y'all.
everybody. Thanks for watching.